I had an opportunity on the 15th of September, which is almost a month ago, to come and participate with the professional development with the teachers and staff, and was impressed with our speaker, Mr. Mark Johnson, talking about We Believe. A couple of statements that he made in here, if I can just share those with you. He made a statement, it's easier to build a strong child than to repair a broken man. And he said, kids need a safe harbor from the storm, and that's what we are opportunity to create in schools here. He said it in his work and efforts that he did in the Napa Valley in California, they didn't focus as much on test scores, but on the kids and their learning. And he talked about something called a professional learning community, which I was impressed with. And if I can, for just a minute, he told a story about a young man who had lost his father in 2nd or 3rd grade and quit coming to school. And one of the janitors from the school decided that he would take it upon himself to go visit that young man. And he continued to visit with him and make sure he was at school. He had an opportunity to learn. And then he said that young man kind of disappeared, and the janitor didn't have any idea where that young man was or anything else. And a number of years later, dressed in a Marine uniform with a little 5 or 6 year old child in his hand, he came back to that school, walked past the office, walked past the teachers, and asked where that janitor was. And that janitor was still there. And he took his young son up to him, called him by name, I don't remember the name right now, and said, I want you to watch this man. This man took care of me during the time that I had storms and troubles in my life. And if you see him do anything, you can do it. And I want to introduce him to and call you your grandfather. Evidently, that janitor made such an impact in the life of that young man that he wanted his child to be that way. So thank you. I was grateful to be there. All right, Dr. Freeman.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I don't think there was a dry in the room after that story. Whew. Okay, buenas tardes a todos and good evening, everyone. October is a month with several important dates for us. So please note, October 22nd is the last day for citizens to request their mail-in ballots for the upcoming November election. Voters on the Permanent Early Voting List, or PEVL, is sometimes called, should be receiving their ballots soon. Did anybody get one yet? Yep, they're in, okay. Yep. So once filled out, those ballots need to be put in the mail by October 26th if you want to ensure they're received on time. And based on my own experience, I know how easy it is to put those in the do it later, gonna get to pile and forget. So I have already voted and put mine in the mail yesterday. But I am keeping my I voted sticker for November 2nd. And I want to encourage everyone to get this done same day if you can. It isn't just part of our civic duty, but part of how we teach our children the value of our democracy. It's also important for students of the Littleton District because the board has 2 important questions on this election. The first question, which is on the front of the ballot, authorizes the district to continue using bonds for capital improvements. Bonds are a lot like 20-year mortgages that we can sell only if we have capacity, just like you might have equity in your home. And that means adding new classroom space, adding efficiency and safety features to existing classrooms will be able to be purchased with those new funds. The question also includes some student computers and furniture. Unlike charter schools you see popping up all over the place, which are privately owned and can be sold off at any time for a profit, your school district continues improving these facilities for you and the students and the community who are the true owners of these buildings. The board also has a question regarding officially affiliating Littleton District with the Westmec District. There is no cost to taxpayers because Westmec is already voter approved in their relationship with our high school district, Tolleson Union High. And so approving this affiliation means that our middle school students would learn more about career and technical education programs and the workforce opportunities for them when they finish school. We're excited about the idea of our students potentially continuing CTE when they move on in their schooling, because all of the data shows that students who find a passion and meaning in their schooling, their attendance improves, their grades improve, and the graduation rate goes up. So we're hopeful that the community will support that. Just after our September meeting, we hosted the 21-22 annual kickoff and professional development day that President Nielsen was referring to. These days were combined and modified as we adapted to the pandemic in the last couple years. So we had a combination of virtual and limited capacity in-person sessions. Each of our communications team produces a video with the theme for the year, which we were able to circulate over our network here in the district, which is We Believe. For those of you who are on Zoom, we're going to be able to play that for you at the end of the meeting as we close out. We'd also like to thank President Nielsen for taking time to represent the board with his welcoming remarks. Highlight of the morning came from the keynote speaker that he mentioned, with lots of exemplary stories of teacher, administrator, and support staff service to students. That same afternoon, we held a vaccination clinic here in this auditorium. Our team impressed the volunteers from Safeway Osco by setting up over 30 COVID first or second shots, over 100 booster shots, and 83 flu vaccinations. Our second clinic will be tomorrow, 3:30 to 7:30, again in this auditorium. We're hoping to have an even bigger turnout now that word's getting out. All 3 Pfizer vaccines, first, second, or booster, depending on the person's records, are free of charge. They will ask for insurance information for the flu shots. We encourage everybody who's eligible, students and their families, staff and their families, even board members and their families, to take advantage of this convenient opportunity. Our commitment to the Kids at Hope belief in the success of every student continues around our schools this year. Research shows that children succeed when they can articulate their future in 4 key domains. These are family and the home they hope to have, career and the education they will need to have, service in the community to which they will give, and the kind of recreation, hobbies, or other things they hope to be able to do with the people they care about. Each of our schools sponsors various activities to reinforce these domains or destinations with our students' families. Astoria Vista held their first virtual destination night, home and family, in conjunction with their first PTA meeting of the year. Littleton Firebirds are having coding-focused virtual events where students and their families learn about computer science, coding, and potential job opportunities available in the field. And they're thrilled to be partnering with TechSmart, zSpace, and Amazon to learn some of the various coding types that are currently used in apps in those systems today. FineArts Academy is planning a virtual college and career awareness night where students and their families, family members will collaborate on activities to increase students' awareness of real-world professions associated directly and indirectly with the arts. At Country Place Leadership Academy, the Family Learning Action Team is leading multiple family engagement activities, including virtual opportunities. At the Quinton Life Health Sciences Academy and Tres Rios Tres Rios Service Academy, the focus has been on ensuring that all students have an ACE. ACEs are caring adults in a child's life, and they play a critical role in inspiring students to do great things. Teachers are building and strengthening student-teacher relationships and share conversations focused on student interest, hobbies, and sports. Let's see. Sharing the progress of students' learning is also important at this time of year. Teachers at our campuses use Remind app with the Google Classroom and Google Meet platforms for parent, student, teacher conferences at the end of first quarter, and for reminders of upcoming events like Meet the Teacher Night, Curriculum Night, PTA meetings, and School Improvement or Title I plan meetings. Other activities around the district include celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month at Country Place, bulletin boards and virtual visits with influential Hispanic leaders in our community. I peeked in on a couple of those. They were fantastic. Teachers at Estrella Vista created Flipgrid videos to showcase the exciting STEM learning going on at EV in their first ever virtual showcase. Thus far, they've had 173 views with 12.3 hours of engagement from parents and community members. The Collier Business Academy parents also attended a coffee with the principal session, and Quinton families are sending in feedback on how they'd like to receive support from the school and the type of events they'd like to see in their school. In closing, I'd like to express our appreciation to Southern Illinois Community Foundation for their check donation of $500 to Estrella Vista STEM Academy, and that's almost everything I have this this meeting, because I'm supposed to remind everybody if they do come for COVID vaccines to bring their card to show how far along they are, so you can get it signed by the pharmacy people to keep your card up to date. Sorry, I snuck that in at the end. Now I'm really done.
Thank you, Dr. Freeman. We're glad that you're done, but I think I need to turn you something over here about upcoming events or a summary event.
That was it.
Okay.
Proclamations may still be on.
Okay, we'll do the
Yeah,
proclamations here.
Yeah.
So we have 4 proclamations to read this evening, and I've tried to have each one of the members of the board read one of those. So Amy, if you'd like to read the first one on, is it bullying prevention?
Yes.
Thank you.
Whereas bullying is physical, verbal, sexual, or emotional harm or intimidation intentionally directed at a person or group of people, and whereas bullying occurs in our neighborhoods, playgrounds, schools, and throughout technology, such as the internet and cell phones, and whereas various researchers have concluded that bullying is the most common form of violence affecting millions of American children and adolescents annually, and whereas the children who bully are at greater risk of engaging in more serious violent behaviors, and whereas children who witness bullying often feel less secure, more fearful, and intimidated. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the governing board of Littleton Elementary School District do hereby proclaim October as National Bullying Prevention Month. And be it further resolved that Littleton schools, students, parents, recreation programs, religious institutions, and community organizations be encouraged to engage in a variety of awareness and prevention activities designated to make our community safer for all children and adolescents.
Thank you very much. Kathy, are you able to read this one on Principals Month?
I think I can read, but I'm on my cell phone and it's very tiny, so I would prefer not to. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read that one then.
Thank you.
Principals Month. Whereas the Littleton School District Governing Board, in coordination with the U.S. Congress, has declared the month of October as National Principal Month. And whereas principals are expected to be educational visionaries, instructional leaders, assessment experts, disciplinarians, community builders, public relations experts, budget analysis, facilities managers, special programs administrators, guardians of various legal, contractual, and policy mandates and initiatives. No wonder you didn't want to read this one, Kathy.
I know, after hearing those words, I'm impressed.
Whereas principals are entrusted with the education and development of our young people, the most valuable resource, and whereas principals set the academic tone for their schools and work collaboratively with teachers to develop and maintain high curriculum standards, develop mission statements, and set performance goals and objectives for schools to achieve educational excellence. And whereas the courageous vision, dedication, and determination of the principal provides the mobilizing force behind any school reform effort. And whereas to honor and recognize the contribution of all school principals and their assistants to the success of students in Littleton Elementary School District, and to encourage everyone in our community to observe National Principals Month. Now, therefore, be it resolved in honor of the service of all school principals and to recognize the importance of their school leadership so that every child has access to high-quality education, and to celebrate school leader accomplishment, the month of October is hereby designated in the Littleton School District as to be National Principals Month. John, would you do the one on domestic violence awareness?
Of course, Mr. President, thank you very much. Domestic violence awareness. Whereas domestic violence is an issue affecting Arizonans and all communities, regardless of age, gender, economic status, race, religion, nationality, or educational background. And whereas 24 people in the United States are victims of intimate partner violence every minute, and whereas 1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men have experienced physical violence or stalking by an intimate partner during their lifetime, and whereas 30% of children exposed to intimate partner violence had their first exposure before the age of 2, an additional 26% had their first exposure between the ages of 2 and 7, whereas victims of violence are more likely to experience long-term mental and physical health concerns, including a higher risk of chronic disease, substance abuse, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and anxiety, and whereas challenges related to the COVID-19 global pandemic, including stressors such as unemployment, reduced income, limited resources, and social support may increase risk factors for family violence. And whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month provides an important opportunity to enhance education, prevention, and intervention efforts around domestic violence, and support organizations and individuals who provide advocacy efforts, services, and assistance to victims. Now, therefore, the Governing Board of the Littleton Elementary School District do hereby proclaim October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Thank you very much. Sarah, one more if you've got, can you read that one? National School Lunch?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. National School Lunch. Whereas the National School Lunch Program was established to safeguard the health and well-being of the nation's children and is dedicated to support the success of our students. And whereas proper nutrition helps students focus on their potential and worry less about nutrition. Whereas the school lunch program is essentially a community effort, and whereas the National School Lunch Week is dedicated each October to emphasize the importance of food security in our youth. Now, therefore, the Governing Board of the Littleton Elementary School District proclaims October 11th through the 15th, 2021 as National School Lunch Week. And be it further resolved that the Littleton community become aware and concerned about their children's and their own nutritional habits in hope of achieving a more healthful citizenry for today and the future.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate that from all of you there. That takes care of proclamations. Ms. Vanderwater, our program showcase for this evening.
President Nielsen, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Freeman, I'm excited to present to you our program showcase for this evening. Tonight, Mr. Charlie Blanton, principal of FineArts Academy, will showcase Fine Arts' signature school focus, including the mission and vision, partnerships, arts integration initiatives, and instructional connections through creativity and academics. Through the arts, students develop skills like resilience, grit, and a growth mindset to help them master their craft, do well academically, and succeed in life after high school. Additionally, Fine Arts Academy will showcase their Kids at Hope Student of the Month, 5th grader Marcos Telez, and recognize a dedicated volunteer, Mrs. Angie Allday. We are pleased to welcome Mr. Charlie Blanton.
Good evening. All right, there we go. Good evening, President Nielsen, members of the Governing Board,
Dr. Freeman, members of the executive team and the Littleton community. I'm Charlie Blanton, the proud principal of Fine Arts Academy. I'm honored to have this opportunity to share with you in the Littleton community a little bit about who we are, how we've grown, and since our school first opened, and plans for the future expansion of the arts at Fine Arts Academy. So right there. Our mission at Fine Arts Academy is to provide rigorous and relevant learning experiences that engage, inspire, and empower all students to become lifelong learners and express their unique talents. Our vision is excellence through the arts. We believe all children are capable of success and can benefit from learning about the arts as well as learning through the arts. To that end, our goal is to improve learning for all students through high-quality instruction using arts integration. Since our school first opened 6 years ago, we've seen an explosion of growth in all areas of the arts. Before the pandemic, we had students come into school early and staying late every day so they could participate in before and after school clubs, advanced music groups, the fall play, and the spring musical. As many of you probably remember, we ended the 1920 school year on a high note with a choir concert that included over 200 musicians right there, followed by the spring musical, Beauty and the Beast. With so much enthusiasm for the arts and with so many students choosing to enroll in our school, we decided it was time to take the arts into the general education classrooms as a way to positively impact student learning. So to prepare for this transition, I took a team of school leaders to the Sacramento Arts Integration Conference, where we learned what true arts integration looks like and how this can benefit all students in all subject areas. We were all very excited to get back to the studio and start implementing all the cool arts integration techniques we had just learned. And then COVID happened. Suddenly, we were focused on virtual teaching and trying to motivate students to attend and participate in online classes. As you can imagine, our students and arts teachers were devastated. Somehow, teaching art, music, theater, band, dance, and strings through Google Classroom just wasn't the same. But our Falcons, they are unstoppable. There we go. Yep. To raise morale during school closure and to keep the focus on the arts, we decided it would be fun to participate in the Getty Museum Challenge. Over the course of a couple weeks, students, teachers, family members, and community members were recreating famous works of art and posting them online. Yeah, it was then that we knew that the fine arts families are here to stay. So now that schools have opened and we're back in the studio, we have resumed most activities with necessary mitigation measures in place, of course. Not only have we managed to get students back on track with in-person learning, our teachers are also back on track with professional development in the area of arts integration. So just in case you weren't aware, arts integration is an approach to teaching in which students construct and demonstrate an understanding through an art form. Students engage in a creative process which connects the art form and another subject area and meets evolving objectives in both. So that means we are learning about the arts as we're learning about the content, vice versa, and students are expected to master both the art standards and the content standards. Through our partnership with the artful teacher, Ms. Cheryl Mertz, we are currently training all fine arts teachers exactly what arts integration is and how to apply effective arts integration strategies across the curriculum to help students demonstrate learning of an art form and their learning of the content. Ms. Mertz delivers professional development workshops for teachers, then spends the next 2 days in following up with demonstration lessons in the classrooms. This way, teachers get to experience firsthand what it means to teach and learn through the arts. Go ahead. Inspired by our professional development in the arts integration, our gifted teacher, Mrs. Krausen, and her students decided to use the arts to explore careers in the medical field. As they role-play scenarios in EPH, which is Exploring Potential Hospital, students are simultaneously learning academic and social skills as they explore careers in the medical field or in acting. Move over Chicago Hope, there's a new medical show in town. As you can see here, our kindergarteners. And next. There we go. As you can see here, our kindergartners are also getting into the acting business as well. In Miss Raymond's classroom, students are not at all shy about performing for their teacher and friends. This is helping them develop language skills, social skills, and a love of the arts. At this time, I would like to talk to you about the current and future growth of the arts at FineArts. So this year we're excited to offer instruction in traditional Mexican dance known as Ballet Folklorico. If you've been to the corner of MC85 and Avondale Boulevard, you will see these guys dancing on the billboard. It's pretty awesome. So classes are open to all fine arts students in grades K-8 and are held before school twice a week. Our instructor is Miss Sienna Galindo, and she's doing a spectacular job getting our new dance program up and running. So thank you, Sienna. We can hit play on that.
So this is our first year at Littleton Fine Arts Academy. We are looking to spread knowledge about the beautiful culture of Mexico through dance and music. And we have children from kindergarten to 8th grade. And we hope to build their confidence and teach them something new about their culture. With Mexico being so diverse as well, there are many different colors of the dances and of the dresses and of the music. That's very important and makes the cultures very unique. With these children, overall, we do want to spread knowledge about the culture and everything about Mexico and what makes it beautiful. But also from my own perspective as a future teacher, I want my kids to be very confident. This is to grow their confidence to perform on stage, but as well use it in real life.
Okay, so currently we have all these programs happening at Fine Arts. We have band, choir, many levels of choir. We have before and after school advanced choir groups that meet. We have a full dance program, strings, guitar, and then we also have after school opportunities for students who choose to do so to participate in the spoken word poetry club. That's a pretty amazing club that's already grown quite a bit in the last couple of years. And I just showed you just saw the video of Ballet Folklorico, and a couple things we're going to be adding. One that we'll be adding this year is filmmaking. One of our teachers majored in filmmaking, so our students are excited to do something with that. And then in the future, we hope to have a mariachi program in place. No dates on that one. So once again, I want to thank you for providing me this opportunity to share with you some of the things that are happening at Fine Arts Academy. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so very much. Appreciate the presentation. Any questions, comments? Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Blanton, for this wonderful presentation. My daughter goes to the Fine Arts Academy, and I can't tell you how important integrating her love of music and art is to her education, and how much she speaks to me about things like the art club and what an impact Miss Walla has on her life. So, you know, it's great to see presentations, but I also wanted to point out that I live with a student in which arts make a huge difference in her life, and I just want to thank you and the staff for the wonderful work that you're doing there.
Thank you for the affirmation.
Thank you so very much. Anything else? Thank you. Appreciate it.
We'd also like to recognize Fine Arts Kids at Hope Student of the Month as well as their volunteer. I have 2 short videos that we're going to play for you.
Greetings, I'm Charlie Blanton, Principal of Fine Arts Academy, and I'd like to recognize Miss Angie Alday for all that she has done to support our staff, our students, and our families. Miss Alday has played an active role in our school since the day it opened. At this time, her daughter Annabelle was in 2nd grade. Now she is an 8th grader. How time flies. Throughout the years, Angie has led the charge to support teachers and students through fundraising, event planning, and monthly PTSA meetings where community members are engaged in meaningful discussions around school improvement and family engagement. A few of the many annual events that Miss Alday has spearheaded at Fine Arts include the Mother, Son, and Daddy-Daughter dances, Trunk or Treat, Turkey Trot, Holiday Gift Shop, Field Day, dinner for teachers during student-led conferences, and lots of fundraising to help provide funds for students to attend field trips. Because so much of the work of a PTSA happens behind the scenes, it is likely that few people realize the tremendous effort it takes for these events to happen. Miss Alday, I mean it when I say this, you are a true leader and you have given so much to our school through your support and dedication. It is with honor that I present you with our Volunteer of the Month Award for Fine Arts Academy. Thank you, Miss Alday.
My name is Marcos and I am a Fine Arts Academy kid at Hope. I am talented, smart, and capable of success. Something I like to do is art. I'm not really that good at it yet, but my brother and my art teacher, Miss Walla, are helping me to improve my skills. My dream for my future is to play football professionally by the time I am 21 years old. I will be a linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys. I feel very lucky to have many aces in my life. At home, I have my mom, my dad, and my brother to help me be my best and never give up. Another ace I have is my teacher, Miss Silva. She is one of the best teachers I have ever had. She is nice and she cares about everyone. I'm Marcos and I am proud to be receiving the Kids at Hope Reward for Fine Arts Academy.
Thank you, Mr. Blanton.
Thank you so very much. I'm still trying to become an artist, okay? And stick figures are the best I can do. Thank you for the presentation. Item number 8 is call to the public. Just according to the Arizona open meeting laws, any matter brought before the board by members of the audience may not be acted upon at this meeting. The governing board appreciates constituent participate and asks the attendees to complete the form and address the board, which is available near the entrance. I think that's all done and taken care of. Is it Ms. Bowling? Would you please come forward and make your presentation? And let me just remind you, you have 3 minutes. Will you state your name so just we have that home?
Good evening, my name is Tiffany Jones-Bowling.
Hang on just a second, I don't think your mic's on.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, my name is Tiffany Jones-Bowling. I'm a mother of a child at Collier Business Academy. In my spare time, I'm also a school district substitute teacher, so I'm well known by name and face at the school. I'm here today to discuss my discontent with the Make Your Day Step 4 process that Collier has in place and ask that it be reviewed and altered if possible. A couple of months ago, I received a phone call from the faculty asking me if I would come in and cover for a teacher who would be out the next day. I agreed, and when I got there, I happened to pass the dean in the hallway after first block around 9:30-ish. We have always had a great relationship as I've had kids at the school for the last 8 years. In passing, he asked me if I had taken care of the step 4 for my son. I informed him I was not aware of the step 4, and he briefly gave me a rundown about my son having his hood on in the classroom and being defiant when asked to take it off. I took a second to text my husband, who's in Iraq, to have him to call to the school and take care of it. I told him to remind the staff that I was doing them a favor by being a sub that day, and it had to be cleared telephonically, or I would need to clock out to do it myself so that my son can get back in school. My husband texted me back a little while later and said it was all clear and my son was sent back to class. During my lunch break, I decided to go talk to his teacher anyway to see exactly what the issue was for myself. When I got to the classroom, I found my son still sitting in the corner, still on step 4 punishment. When I asked the teacher why he was still on step 4, she told me she was waiting on me because it couldn't be cleared via telephone. That was when I also found out that the infraction had happened the day prior, first thing in the morning. So here we are, 1.5 days of missed instruction and still no notification from the teacher. I was so upset by this that I had to leave without finishing my day. I spoke with the principal, who was the one that my husband had spoke to clear the step 4, and she personally sent my son back to class. And she explained that the teacher wasn't aware of the COVID step 4 procedures, which only required a text or a phone call to clear the step 4 and not an in-person conference anyway. And she apologized on behalf of the teacher. Fast forward to last week. I got a phone call after school about my son being on step 4 again, because this time a student accused him of hiding her belongings the day prior. So once again, he missed another day and a half of school instruction because the teacher was too busy to call or text the day prior or before school that day or any time during school. I do not make excuses for my child, and he gets punished accordingly when he gets in trouble at school. However, forcing a child to miss more than a day of instruction for minor and subjective infractions is completely unnecessary and unacceptable. Especially being a school district substitute, I see how other schools operate, and it is nowhere near this level of dysfunction. I have made a request to switch him out of the school, but it seems like that's not going to happen or even be considered until after winter break. My request to the board this evening is that the step 4 process be reviewed at Collier and that students not be allowed to sit on step 4 for more than a few hours without a parent being notified. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that presentation. We will get back with you and use the board adopted parent complaint process. Is that what we need to follow through with?
Mr. President, there is a board-adopted complaint process for parents to use if they want to escalate past the principal. And usually those would go to Ms. Vandewater's office. So
Okay.
I'm not sure if that happened. Ms. Vandewater will follow up. And just based on what I heard tonight, it seems like a communication, family communication problem. And maybe more than just the way step 4s are supposed to run, but timely communication. And we do have a procedure to follow up on it, so
Thank you so
we'll
much.
be sure to do that.
Ms. Vanderwater, you'll follow up on that for us?
Yes, I will.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your presentation. Item number 9 is the consent agenda. Let me just remind the board that when we met last time, we talked about some procedures and policies that were contingent upon the outcome of the judge's ruling. Because of the judge's ruling, those particular items have been removed from the consent agenda, so everything else would be second reading in there. So, are there any members of the board that would like to pull any items on the consent agenda tonight?
No.
If not, can I have a motion to approve those?
This is Amy, and I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Amy.
This is Kathy. I'll second that.
Thank you, Kathy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Item number 10.
President Nielsen, members of the governing board, Dr. Freeman, before introducing our 3 principals to present their school's integrated action plans, I would like to provide you with a brief overview and reminder of the integrated action plan and school improvement process. The comprehensive needs assessment, root cause analysis, and integrated action plan for all Title I schools includes Title I, II, III, IV, school improvement, and move on when reading. schools use the 6 principles, indicators, and elements to identify strengths and needs to increase student achievement and strengthen school systems, leading to sustainable improvement. The primary needs identified in the comprehensive needs assessment become the foundation for the school's integrated action plan. In order for Title I schools to receive and maintain federal school funding for continuous improvement, the Arizona Department of Education requires all schools to complete a comprehensive and rigorous process. Each school site is mandated to conduct a thorough and reflective data analysis to determine needs, implement necessary systems change with evidence-based practices throughout the continuous improvement process. When hearing from each principal this evening, they will share 2 of their 6 integrated action plan SMART goals, data used from the previous year to set the goals, strategies and action steps to meeting those goals, and measures to determine growth or challenges. COVID disclaimer care should be taken when working with our data from the 2020-21 school year due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Arizona Department of Education has made every effort to calculate the measure as it was in previous years. The pandemic may have impacted the data in unforeseen ways, and so all analysis needs to take pandemic effects into account. Information gleaned from state assessments helps identify areas where we most need to accelerate learning opportunities for our students. The summative assessment AZM2 results, in combination with other data, present an opportunity for our school leaders and educators to inform the type of supports students, educators, and schools need to be successful. Tonight, we will begin with Country Place Leadership Academy, Dr. Mike Cagle. Country Place's overall percent tested was 96% in FY 21-22, which was higher than the state average. The average percent meeting proficiency or considered passing in English language arts for 3rd through 8th grades was 24% and ranged from 17% to 33% in grade 5, which was 3 points higher than the state average. The average percent meeting proficiency or considered passing in math for 3rd through 8th grades was 12% and ranged from 7% to 17% in grade 6, which was 9 percentage points higher than the district average. Dr. Cagle will share 2 of the school's 6 SMART goals in the areas of math, as well as their Leader in Me school belonging goal. Welcome, Dr. Cagle.
Thank you, Ms. Vandewater. Good evening, President Nielsen, members of the board, Dr. Freeman, members of the executive team, and our community members. We appreciate the opportunity to share with you some of the great things that we're working on at Country Place Leadership Academy. Wanted to start by sharing with you a leadership goal that we have, and it's focused around school belonging. Our team identified school belonging as a need, particularly in terms of the pandemic and kids not being in school. And we're going to use our Leader in Me measurable results assessment to see if we can move that work forward. So the MRA is part of our Leader in Me process where we asked students, staff, and parents a variety of questions around leadership, and some of them are related to school belonging. And we would like to increase our school belonging score by 10 points from a 58 to a 68. Our strategies for and implementation strategies and action steps are to implement morning meetings focused around character development daily in all of our classrooms, implementation of leadership roles in our classrooms and school-wide, training and implementation of the Leader in Me and the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and training and implementation of all things EQ. Our success criteria, in addition to seeing the increased scores at the end of the year, is to see instruction in character development, growth mindset, and student potential evident in our classroom walkthroughs, and also increase participation of our students in our leadership action teams. So that is our leadership goal for the year. And another goal of ours is to increase our proficiency in mathematics. We identified this as a primary need based on our high stakes assessments are below the state average, and we want to increase our student success rate. So we have identified a audaciously attainable goal. We're aiming high. We want to go to 50%. How we want to do this is to increase opportunities for training on using evidence-based practices and effective use of our core materials. We are going to be training and implementing the use of productive struggle and success criteria for our students. We want to promote teacher collaboration by implementing professional learning communities school-wide with a focus on the use of common formative assessment, unpacking essential standards, and some of our classrooms are piloting the use of FastBridge math assessments. So our success criteria and evidence is to increase our percent proficient and highly proficient on our interim assessments, using rigorous tasks, evidence-based practices, and the effective use of our core materials in classroom walkthroughs. And our PLC collaborative teams focused on essential standards in mathematics. We also want to implement interventions and extensions for students based on their need. So those are our two main goals that we wanted to share with you this evening, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Dr. Giggle. We appreciate that presentation. Any comments or questions from members of the board?
No.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Cagle. We will now hear from Mr. Charlie Blanton, principal at Fine Arts Academy. Fine Arts overall percent tested was 88% in FY21-22, which was 4 points higher than the state average. The average percent meeting proficiency or considered passing for English language arts for 3rd through 8th grades was 22% and ranged from 17% to 30% in grade 4, which was 11 points higher than the district average. The average percent meeting proficiency or considered passing in math for 3rd through 8th grades was 12% and ranged from 8% to 17%, grade 8, which was 8 points higher than the state average. Mr. Blanton will share 2 of the school's 6 SMART goals in the areas of ELA and math on the district's pre to post assessments. Mr. Blanton.
Good evening once again, President Nielsen, members of the governing board, Dr. Freeman, members of the executive team, and the Littleton community. I'm Charlie Blanton, proud principal of Fine Arts Academy. I'd like to thank you for providing me this opportunity to share with you our integrated action plan, or at least parts of it, for the school year 2021-2022. The process of developing our school's integrated action plan began last spring when we reached out to a variety of school and community stakeholders to elicit their feedback and input through multiple surveys that addressed each area of the integrated action plan. The process of reviewing stakeholder feedback as part of the continuous school improvement process is a collaborative effort led by members of the Fine Arts Guiding Coalition and the school administrative team. After reviewing the survey responses and a variety of assessment data from fiscal year 21, we identified a few areas to focus on as part of our continuous school improvement. Tonight, I'll share 2 of those with you. Our first student achievement goal focuses on the area of ELA, English Language Arts. By the end of the year 21-22 school year, our 1st through 8th grade students will increase their performance rating in ELA by 1 performance level as measured by the pre-post district ELA assessment. The percent of students who grew by at least 1 performance rating in FY21 was 34.8%. We would like to increase this to 60% or more of our students moving at least 1 performance level in ELA. To address this improvement in this area, all teachers will continue to receive ongoing school and district professional development and high-quality Tier 1 instruction. Additionally, teachers will collaborate in vertical teams to ensure a coherent alignment of the standards. Teachers will also use student work and common formative assessments to plan for differentiated reteach and enrich intervention. Our second goal focuses on student achievement in the area of math. By the end of FY 21-22 school year, 1st through 8th grade students will increase their performance rating in math by 1 performance level as measured by the pre-post district math assessments. The percentage of students who grew at least 1 performance level in FY 21 was 15.2%. We are looking to increase this to at least 60% of our students moving at least 1 performance level in math. To address a student achievement in math, fine arts teachers will participate again in ongoing professional development on the PLC process provided by Solution Tree. Our teachers collaborate around prioritizing standards and ensuring students have sufficient time to learn key concepts in math that will help them be successful in their current year of study while preparing them for future success. When teachers prioritize standards, they consider 3 factors. The first is readiness. Does this standard provide students with the essential knowledge and skills necessary for success in the next grade level? The second factor is endurance. Does the standard provide students with knowledge and skills that are useful beyond the test or the unit? And the third factor is leverage. Does the standard provide students with knowledge and skills that will be of value in multiple disciplines? After collaborating in grade level teams to identify these prioritized standards, teachers then meet in vertical teams to ensure a coherent progression of prioritized standards from kindergarten through 8th grade. The next step is for teachers to unwrap those prioritized standards to articulate exactly what students must know and be able to do once they have mastered the standards. Once the standards have been mastered, unwrapped, the next step is for teachers to develop common formative assessments to monitor students' growth. Teachers are then able to use common formative assessment data to provide interventions and extensions to students to fill the gaps and meet their individual needs before moving on to additional concepts. So as you can imagine, it takes a lot of hard work and dedication from all staff members to prioritize and align the standards and then provide differentiated instruction followed by targeted interventions. We know that teachers cannot be the only ones doing the work. Students must play a significant role in their own learning. To ensure this happens, one of our areas of focus is also student agency. We know that when we engage students in setting rigorous improvement goals, tracking their own progress and communicating progress to their families, they take more ownership of their learning and are therefore more invested in their own improvement. At this time, I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions or comments from members of the board? John, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President and Mr. Bland, for that presentation. I do notice on here for both your desired outcomes as well as your criteria for success, you mentioned families understanding the educational outcome and support for their learners. Can you talk, I don't see that maybe specifically identified as one of your implementation activities. Can you talk a little bit about how you're engaging families as part of this plan?
Sure, I'll be happy to try to address that. One of the ways we integrate, how do I want to say that? One of the ways we work with families is through student-led conferences where students speak to the standards that they're learning and what they're doing well, where they need to grow and how they plan to do that. Another way we do that is our guiding coalition is currently working on learning calendars where they can send home a snapshot of what this quarter is going to look like, what are the big standards kids are learning, and maybe how parents can help their children at home as well. So we're going to try to educate the parents on what their children are learning so that the parents are more able to help their children.
Thank you very much for that explanation. And then maybe just a point of clarification. I don't know if this is from you or from a district administration, but are pre and post assessments not providing teachers with detailed information? Is that a problem with the assessment, or is that a breakdown at the district level? Could somebody just provide a little bit of additional detail about where that issue is occurring?
President, members of the board. Our pre to post assessment happens at the beginning of the year and then at the end of the year. So in between those 2 points of data, we have what we call interim assessment data as well as common formative assessment data so that teachers have data readily available, not just at the beginning or at the end, but at certain points in time so they could look at the standards taught and where the students are on that trajectory. So it is providing relevant information to inform teachers, but not within the segment of teaching, if that makes sense.
No, I do appreciate that. I think I was misreading it a little bit though the assessment was just not providing the data, but it sounds like you're just looking for more formative assessments throughout the year to help guide your teaching. Okay, I appreciate that clarification. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Thank you. Appreciate your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Blanton. We will now hear from Mr. Eric Atuhaney, principal at Littleton STEM Academy. Littleton's overall percent tested was 87% in FY 2021, which was higher than the state average. The average percent meeting proficiency or considered passing in English language arts for 3rd through 8th grades was 16% and ranged from 6% to 27% in grade 5, which was consistent with the state averages. The average percent meeting proficiency or considered passing in math for 3rd through 8th grades was 5% and ranged from 2% to 9% in grade 3. Mr. Atuhaney will share 2 of the school's 6 SMART goals in the areas of ELA and math as measured by the district's interim assessments, as well as differentiated staff professional development. Welcome, Mr. Atuhaney.
Great, thank you very much, Ms. Vandewater. Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Freeman, and the executive team, I am pleased to share Littleton STEM Academy's integrated action plan. Our first goal is to raise student mastery by 10% for English language arts and math from kindergarten to 8th grade on each quarterly interim assessment. An interim assessment is an assessment that is given after students have learned a specific set of standards over a quarter. At Littleton Elementary School District, we have 3 district-level interms that are given at the end of each quarter. We will focus on implementing professional learning communities to reach this goal. Professional learning communities is a practice that lets teachers work in teams in order to concentrate on the right work in schools, which is collaboration, focusing on student learning and student results. As teacher teams focus on the right work, it permits us to build a professional organization that centers on meeting the needs of all students. Professional learning communities will lead us to strengthen our staff culture, improve teacher effectiveness, and raise student achievement. We began the journey to implement effective and efficient professional learning communities at Littleton STEM Academy in the summer of 2020. We were able to use our school funds to complete 40 hours of professional development via Zoom with 16 of our teacher leaders. This allowed us to lay the foundation with these staff members in order to support a fluid start to the school year with professional learning communities. The summer of 2021, we built on our work with our teacher leadership team and did development on interventions, which are what are we going to do when students have not learned the content, and extensions, which are what will we do when the students have learned the content. We have implemented bi-weekly professional learning community leadership PDs for 16 of our teacher leaders, and we have created a professional learning plan that is focused on academic conversations. We will measure the success of our implementation through weekly assessments that students take in order for teachers to evaluate teaching and learning, and through our professional learning community rubric that we use to provide feedback and score teams' effectiveness and efficiency. The strong implementation of professional learning community sessions will lead us to reaching Goal 1. Goal 2 focuses on increasing staff retention. Great schools have happy, hardworking teachers that have been at their sites for an extended period of time. This helps us in knowing the community, owning the growth of the school, and building relationships with colleagues and students. Goal 2 reads, Littleton STEM Academy will improve the quality of professional development by meeting the needs of all staff members by differentiating the content delivered by the end of the year, which will improve staff retention from 89% to 94% this year. This comes up to approximately 5 teachers. We want to focus on delivering high-quality professional development that meets the varied needs of the staff. We will develop a professional development committee that is composed of staff members that represent the different parts of the school, and they can work collaboratively to create high-quality professional development that helps all staff members grow. The meaningful PD that is produced and delivered will help with teacher effectiveness and in turn increase student achievement. We will monitor the quality of the PD through our professional development feedback system called My Learning Plan. This is our district system that allows staff to provide feedback to facilitators. Currently, our professional development feedback is rated at the 90th percentile by staff. We will use walkthrough data stored in our Frontline system, and Frontline is a system that the district uses to accumulate formal and informal data based off of classroom walkthroughs and observations. We will review this information as a professional development committee and make the necessary refinements to improve our in-class instructional practices. Staff will also have individual growth plan journals where they'll be able to reflect on their student data, student learning, and teaching practices. Quality professional development with accountability measures will help with the retention of staff at Littleton STEM Academy. I want to thank you for your continued support.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Atuhini. Because I know we've spent some time on this in the past, as far as professional development not meeting the needs of our staff, how much of that professional development do you have control over at the site level versus what is dictated at the district level?
I think we have autonomy at the site level. All professional development is driven by the outcomes from our common formative assessments that teachers give, as well as our interim assessments and end-of-year state assessments. So the data is what informs what learning that our staff needs in order to impact our kids.
Okay, no, thank you very much for that explanation. That actually makes me very pleased that you guys have the tools and are addressing this for our staff, because I know it's a continual area of concern for some of our teachers. So I'm glad that that time is, or that you're focusing on making sure that that time is used as efficiently and effectively for our teachers as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Thank you so much again for the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Atuhini.
Item number 11, Dr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. It's my pleasure tonight to bring a recommendation for the Director of Finance forward. We would like you to consider Ms. Rochelle Corey for appointment as Director of Finance. She's obviously here right now. So we are bringing her forward as a recommendation by a committee of employees that closely work with the position. Ms. Corey graduated from Western International University with a Bachelor's of Science in Accounting. She's coming to us from the Washington Elementary School District, where she served for 10 years as an accounting manager and most recently as the interim director of finance. She comes highly recommended from her colleagues and supervisors. The interview committee was impressed not only by her knowledge, but her clear understanding of the community we serve, and we are proud to bring this recommendation to the board this evening for consideration.
Thank you so much.
Can we have a recommendation, please?
Ms. Corey, would you like to say anything to us before we start asking you all kinds of questions?
Yeah, good afternoon, President, members of the board, and executive team.
Is that mic on?
I think so.
There
The
you
green
go.
light's on. I just want to say thank you for your opportunity to come forward to you. My hopefully experience has speaks volumes, and I hope to bring my knowledge and learn from everybody here at Littleton. Everybody I've met so far has been very opening and very friendly, and I enjoy meeting every one of you tonight.
Thank you. Any members of the board, comments, questions? If there's not, may I have then a recommendation?
I'll move the governing board approve Ms. Rochelle Corey as Director of Finance for the 2021-2022 school year.
And this is Amy, and I'll second.
Thank you so much. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Welcome then to the Littleton Elementary School Board, or district. We're grateful to have you here, and you do have some great people to work with. Thank you. Mr. French, your turn. Item number 12.
I am here. Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, President Nielsen, governing board members, Dr. Freeman, Littleton community. This evening, I am happy to present to you and review with you the annual financial report for fiscal year 21. Arizona Revised Statute 15904 requires school districts to prepare and submit an AFR no later than October 15th each year. This annual financial report is a broad review and reporting system of the district's operations and financial condition. On the slides to follow, we'll be reviewing some highlights from this report. The board will see this slide a number of times over the course of the school year. The AFR is the culmination of the district timeline or the budget timeline each fiscal year. As you can see, the budget timeline began in the spring of 2020 with budget development and worked its way to this evening with the annual financial report. These slides will follow the order of the AFR documents attached to this item if you'd like to follow along. Page 1 of the AFR records the revenues received in our levy accounts. These accounts include maintenance and operations, capital, also known as district additional assistance, adjacent ways, and debt service. You can see from the chart, majority of the revenue received by the district was from the state, which is approximately 67%, followed by property tax at 25%, county equalization at 7%, and revenue in lieu of taxes of less than 1%. Page 2 of the AFR reports on M&O and allows us to review expenditures in several ways. All school districts are required to adhere to the rules and guidelines outlined in the Uniform System of Financial Records, or the USFR. Part of these guidelines are how districts are required to code salaries and purchases. These account code structures are made up of 7 subsections, which are fund, program, function, object, unit, course, and project. We'll touch on the first 4 of these in this presentation. The account code standardization is important because it allows districts and charters to analyze expenditures like we will be doing this evening. First, let's look at the expenditure by program. Of the almost $35 million spent in maintenance and operations, regular education made up $26.7 million, or 76% of these expenditures. Approximately $7.3 million, or 21%, was expended on special education programs. $690,000, or 2%, was expended on transportation, and $330,000, or 1%, was spent on the K-3 reading program. I would like to point out that the expenditures for transportation were abnormally low this year due to COVID, as we didn't have typical expenditures in supplies like gasoline or maintenance on the buses. And for the majority of the year, drivers were assisting in other areas of the district and were not coded to driving during that time. Just as a point of reference, the FY19 AFR showed expenditures for transportation of $1.45 million. Page 2 of the AFR also allows us to analyze our expenditures by function. Again, of the approximately $35 million expended, $21.4 million, or 61%, was spent on direct instruction of the students. To complement that number, the district also spent approximately $5.5 million, or 16%, on support, both student and instructional. $5.3 million, or 15%, is attributed to operations, and $2.7 million, or 8%, is on administration. Administration services include business resources, human resources, IT, as well as district and campus administration. Page 2 of the AFR also allows us to break down expenditures by object code. You can think of object codes as what the funds were spent on. 88% of the expenditures are attributed to salaries and benefits. This is slightly higher than previous years, but in line with expectations. Purchase services include employee training, repairs and maintenance, travel, utilities, as well as purchase professional services such as occupational and physical therapists and other contracted positions when needed. Purchase services comprise of just under $3 million, or 8% of the expenditures by object. Supplies were 3% of expenditures, and other expenditures were under 1%. Other expenditures include expenditures for dues and fees, such as memberships for professional organizations. This chart is not part of the AFR packet, but is an analysis done by management of the budget less expenses by category to determine the budget balance carry forward. You can see on the bottom line the district budget balance, or the budget for FY21 was $37.4 million and expenditures of just under $35 million, leaving the district with a budget balance carry forward of $2.4 million. This is approximately a budget balance carry forward of 6.5%. Information for the Classroom Site Fund can be found on page 3 of the AFR. The district is required to separate the total Classroom Site Fund revenues into each fund, which you see on the left, 11, 12, and 13, as seen on the chart. Each fund has specific requirements for what it may be used for, and our district's 301 plan directs the specific payouts for our district. Just as information to the board, Classroom Site Fund, or Prop 301, was a voter-approved measure in 2000. Its voter protection expired last year, but was appropriated again by legislature. As a result, the legislature made some structural changes to Classroom Site Fund, and districts no longer have to separate the funds into 3 different buckets. This will only affect reporting, as the district plans on keeping teacher performance pay the same as incoming years. Page 4 of the AFR reports on district additional assistance, also known as capital. 56% of expenditures were for furniture, fixtures, and equipment, which include campus and district level purchases. Construction services were both campus and district level projects, were 16% of capital expenditures for the district, while 29% of expenditures, while 29% was expended on books and instructional aids for our students. Page 4 of the AFR also outlines expenditures of bond funds by the district. The district spent approximately $100,000 in fiscal year 21 bond funds finalizing the Alomar land donation, as well as preparing conceptual drawings. As you can see from this information, the district has sold the entire 2017 bond authorization in preparation for construction of the Alomar school site. This slide shows expenditures to date, as well as remaining funds available to the district from the 2017 bond. Page 5 of the AFR gives details of federal and state grants, which have been summarized here for you. Federal programs or federal projects include our title allocations, IDEA grants, E-rate, and Medicaid reimbursement. It also includes all the COVID relief funds. Federal grants are typically reimbursement grants, which means that we spend the approved allocation and then file for reimbursement of the approved expenditures. This is one area that often reflects a negative balance while the district waits for reimbursement. State projects that are reflected here include a First Things First grant, along with a small gifted education grant and school safety grant. This slide allows us to review the expenditures of the federal projects by grant fund. As you can see, the majority of expenditures were in our COVID-related funds. These expenditures include purchases of PPE, sanitation for classrooms and buses, as well as Chromebooks for students to ensure every student was able to have a device while engaged in dynamic distance learning. Other expenditures from these funds include salaries and benefits of positions, such as bus drivers that took on a different role in the district while during virtual learning, as well as the retention stipend approved by the board. Other notable expenditures include Title I at $1.27 million, as well as IDEA at approximately $709,000. This concludes the presentation. I'd like to thank you and see if any of the members of the board have any questions that I can answer.
Any members of the board have any comments or questions?
This is Kathy. I just have a quick question. On the expenditures as it relates to COVID and waiting for potential reimbursement back, I'm assuming you've submitted all of those, and can you tell me what percentage do you anticipate of receiving back from the federal government?
Yeah, Mr. President, Member Reyes, we have FY21, we would have included in this report ESSER 1 and ESSER 2. We have fully expended ESSER 1's allocation that we got from the federal government. We still are in the middle of using and being able to utilize ESSER 2 money. ESSER 3 money, which was the ARP money that President Biden passed, is not part of the FY21 AFR because we didn't have it approved by ADE at the time. So that you'll be seeing that in further presentations that we present to the board. But we have received, Member Reyes, all of the allocation from ESSER 1 from the state. They have been very good about us, getting us the reimbursements that we request from the ADE.
Anything else there, Kathy?
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. French, Maybe you could just help me understand a little bit regarding budgeted expenditures versus actual expenditures. Just for example, on the site fund, it looks like we budgeted nearly 5.3 million, and we spent like 3.5 million. And then there's a $1.6 million carry forward. Is the intent to have a certain percentage of that carry forward, or did we just miss our mark with our site fund allocation?
Member President Nielsen, Member Rader, that's a very good question. We intentionally carry forward a certain amount of money for a couple of reasons. One is that classroom site fund is no longer voter approved, so legislature can kind of remove that fund any legislative session that they choose to do. And what we wanted to do and what we have talked about as a management team is still have money available in order to pay, because that exclusively goes to teachers and it goes to certified staff. So if that money goes away, there's a large portion of their salary that would be affected by that. And so we intentionally carry forward these funds in order to lessen the blow if something were to happen in a future legislative session.
No, thank you for that explanation. That's exactly what I was looking for, and I think that's very wise and prudent to do so. Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you so much. Appreciate that. You'll get that in 3 days? All right, Dr. Freeman.
I move that
sorry.
we accept the AFR as presented.
This is Kathy, I'll second.
Thank you. All of you in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now we can move on. Dr. Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. There has been, through the work of the State School Board Association and their leadership, a proposed change to the bylaws. It was attached for your review, but I'll try to summarize in a few number of words. There has been a history of subgroups within the association called caucuses. And I think what's happened is they've developed and been added. In the past, some of those subgroups alternated, having turns sitting on the board of directors. And from my reading of the proposal, what the board wants to do is allow them to be represented every year. So no longer have the need to alternate, but actually I think it expands the board by a seat. I mean, Ms. Sosnick, I know, was at the meeting. So they are going to want each board to vote yea or nay to accept that, so they can put those together. And then the winter conference is usually the business conference for the School Boards Association in December. And that's, of course, because as elected officials, you know, the election's in November, you take your office in January. So their business meeting is in December. And the delegate that you had go to the delegate assembly was member Sausnick. The question that we have for the board, part B of this item, is who could be available to serve at that meeting where they will talk about the business of the association and probably have some votes. And I think it says December 16th at 3:30. And I believe there's a virtual attendance option, isn't there?
I haven't seen that option.
Okay, so you may need to be present to participate. I haven't seen anything that says you could do that virtually, unless, Amy, do you know, or?
I was confused about this because this thing has two different dates. You have December 16th at 3:30, but then further on it says December 15th. My calendar says 15th, at least the one I have on my phone. I don't know if it's changed and I haven't got that email.
What I think is the conference is both days and the business meeting is the 16th, and certainly, you know, we can double check. And it could also be that it was December 15th last year, and the year got changed and the date didn't, but she just double checked and it's the 16th, yeah.
I should still be able to go, but that is a number of months away, so having a backup may be a good idea.
You guys want to appoint an alternate? So there's two things for action for the board, to accept the change in bylaws, and I think a delegate would be Ms. Sousnick, but she may need an alternate depending on what's happening with her teaching duties and other things that may come up, sick kids or anything like that. So that probably would be a good move, Mr. President.
So let's start with the first one, item A. Any comments or thoughts about that, yay or nay on that one?
I can say with item A, I attended the meeting about this, and I personally am in support of it. It allows two different minority groups to have a seat on the board, and I think representation of all groups is good, especially when a large percentage of the students we serve are found in those minority groups.
Thank you, appreciate that insight. Any of the rest of you have any other comments on that? I agree with Amy, and I think we ought to vote yes on that to give all those people an opportunity to come and participate on that. So with that, I would go ahead and move that the governing board votes yes on the proposed ASBA bylaw change, Article 5, Section 2B.
I'll second.
Thank you. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item B, the alternate. I think it would be good that we did have someone as a backup for Amy. She's done quite a bit of attending these meetings this year and previous years. I appreciate that. I don't know if any of you know what your schedule would be at that particular time. And it would be where at again? At the Marriott?
Desert Ridge.
Desert.
So it's a little bit of a drive up to 101. That's a Tuesday.
Do we know what day? Oh, what day is the 16th on?
I think it's a Thursday.
Oh,
It's a Thursday.
that's what I thought. I will be out of town.
We have a board meeting on the 14th, and it's the Thursday right after that, the 16th.
Well, I can throw my name in there if that would be helpful, and you be an alternate to you. All right, and we need a motion on that one. Do I want to make that motion?
To have Amy Sousnick as your delegate
And
and President
Nielsen as,
the alternate.
yes, sir.
I move that myself is named as the delegate and Mr. Nielsen is named as alternate if needed.
Thank you very much.
This is John, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Thank you. Dr. Freedom, Dr. Freedom, or we need some freedom here. Dr. Freeman, would you please review the last on the mitigation plan?
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I feel like I'm a Marvel comic now. So the if we look, scroll down, you can see right here, if we stop right here, these are Maricopa County cases as reported by the Department of Public Health. You can see that there was a peak and it dropped a little, but cases are kind of leveling out. This data goes really back to the end of September, beginning of the month. When we look at Littleton's data compared to the county in a line graph here that you're familiar with, you can see where Littleton is the blue lines with the red markers. The thin green line is the county. So you can see how a couple months ago that rose dramatically, and then illnesses have dropped. That's to about 255 per thousand. So we have a mild decline, but definitely much lower than the peak that was a couple months ago. Probably the concern right now would be positivity is up again to closer to 17%. And you can see how on that graph those dots are zigzagging down and up and down and up. So what we generally conclude is some of that is changes in data reporting, and if you split the difference there, we're still hovering around 15% positivity. Given the discussion of the board at the prior meeting and trying to attend to the metrics to determine whether or not to relax mitigation, we're not recommending any change at this time. As a matter of context, if we scroll down to the next graph, well, those are the numbers reported for the district, the county, and the state. And you can see on illnesses, we're pretty close. But on percent positivity, we are 6 to 6.5% higher than the state and the county. So that's a bit of a concern. The graph below that shows the course of metrics over the whole pandemic, and what you see, that big spike is back last winter when things shot up, and so illnesses have dropped dramatically, but our percent positivity has been pretty volatile during the Delta phase of COVID, and it is settling down a little bit, but it's still bouncing around. So we're not recommending any change based on the data that we're seeing. Our vaccination rates are still hovering around, a little below or a little above 50%. Part of the reason we're doing vaccination drives is to try to help push that up. And the trend that people see around the country is you are going to have more illness and more breakthrough illness where you have lower vaccination rates. Right now, the concern of the county is that while youth in the county represent 25% of the population, they're representing 27% of the illnesses. It's not outrageously high, and they're not predominantly severe. You do hear, of course, some of the stories of little kids getting sick and having bad consequences make the news, but overall, the illnesses have not been severe as, even though they're more frequent, not as severe as for older people or people with other comorbidities. So we're thinking we're kind of in a holding pattern where we're at, continuing to make reasonable accommodations, but still requiring masks whenever we're indoors, and especially in large groups.
Thank you, Dr. Freeman. Any members of the board have any questions or any comments directed to Dr. Freeman? If not, do we need a motion to continue the way we are, or?
No. Is this a motion to adjourn if there's no more discussion?
If there's no discussion, may I have a motion to adjourn this evening?
This is Amy, and I move that we adjourn at 7:31.
This is Kathy, I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Have a nice evening. Appreciate your help tonight.
Yeah, Miss Reyes, if you're still online,